Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We have a fun topic we have never discussed on the show before. We have guest Lisa Woodruff. She is the founder of Organized 365, which is products and courses to help you get organized. And she's also a podcaster and author. We started talking about overwhelm and how we are more overwhelmed as women than ever. How having clutter and disorganization leads to stress and even negative self-talk. She gives us really amazing tips on where to start. And we talk about so much more than that, even like ADHD and how that can affect how you manage different things. We even talked about how writing can be really beneficial on pen and paper versus digitally. Like, she does a lot of research and has a lot of information on just this topic in general, and it was just fantastic. I totally enjoyed it, and I will make sure that I link her information as well as she is offering a free challenge for back to school. I'm definitely going to be doing that with her when she does it, so I'll link that information as well. Please share this one with someone you feel could benefit from Lisa's wisdom. And as always, let me know what you think. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today we have Lisa Woodruff. Welcome to Learning to Glow podcast.
Jess, thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited that you're here. We're talking about something on the podcast that we've never talked about. I always get excited when that happens, a new topic. And I think this is such a great topic. You are an author and you're the founder of Organized 360 or 365?
365.
365. And you are going to talk to us about getting organized. I feel like it's so much deeper than just cleaning up our house. There's such a emotional, heavy load that comes along with this when we're disorganized and feeling overwhelmed. So I always like to just start, if you could introduce yourself and tell us, how did you get into this work, a little bit about your story, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think I should start with the fact that I'm a 52-year-old middle-aged woman whose children are now grown, and I'm a grandma. And I say that because as women, if you're a woman that is listening, women tend to, evolve and become more and add on layers as we grow every 5 and for sure every 10 years. And so starting as a babysitter and organizing people's houses when I babysat children, to becoming a stay-at-home mom, to starting a blog and when I turned 40 and starting an in-home organizing business. Now at the age of 50, I've stayed in this household arena as a homemaker and also now as a PhD student and a researcher. And I am bound and determined to solve the problem of why do women everywhere feel so overwhelmed? It's not for lack of Procter & Gamble products or clear containers. That is not our problem. So why do we continue to feel so overwhelmed that we can never stop moving, that the work is never going to be done? Just why do we feel this way and how can we solve it? And I'm trying to solve it at the root level for everyone versus just for certain women in certain socioeconomic statuses at certain seasons with certain family populations.
I love that. That's such a good question because, we're still in summer and there's a lot of moms listening to this with their kiddos at home, and they are I think the best word is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And
drowning.
It's tough. And when you have the kids they're home all day, or, whatever your situation might be, that's an added layer, and it's overwhelming. And then maybe they're home and they're throwing their stuff around a little bit more. And I think it's really interesting how that psychological effect of what it feels like. It's a feeling that you get when you see things all over your kitchen table, or, I get tense, you can feel physical reactions happening. And I'd love to talk about that first, that clutter piece and how we get real physical, and stressed out emotionally, talk to us a little bit about what it like how people feel when they're dealing with that sort of unorganized mess.
Yeah, so I've been that mom. I have helped that mom in real life here in Cincinnati. I've been in forums where I talk with that mom. And if you step out the bigger picture, like now that I'm getting a PhD and I'm in the literature of academia, this narrative is solid. Like it's built out. Everybody knows that women with children at home are very overwhelmed and they have more to do than they can get done. Like this is table stakes. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to eliminate that. However, as I've gotten older and now my kids are, well, they're not all the way out of the house, but they're over the age of 18. Let's just say that. They're over the age they can drive now and they have jobs. It is different when you're not in the active parenting years. And because the active parenting years are so intense, a lot of housework gets conflated with childcare, even in the literature and in the research. There are so few studies, and there are thousands of studies on housework, and almost all of them only look at married women with children. They don't look at singles. They don't look at people who have children who are single. They don't look at people who are older whose children are grown. And it's because the majority of the visible work is done during childcare. However, I'm not a parenting expert. And when my kids were little, I read a book called Healing the Four A's. And if you take allergies, asthma, autism, and ADHD together, you hit 1 out of every 2 children in the United States. So most of these mothers are also dealing with complex parenting that they are not prepared for. No one's really prepared for. And almost every family I know, they're dealing with a special needs child, which is just adding to the stress. It's adding to the uncertainty. And so I think when you see clutter in your household and you are in the active parenting years, you're like, that is something I should be able to control because that is just stuff. And I can't even control that. And so that's at least what I was saying in my head. I don't know if that's what you're saying in your head, but that's what I was saying in my head. And I was like, this is ridiculous. If I can't even control the physical spaces in the house, how can I possibly be the best wife and mother that I want to be to my husband and my children? Like, I have no control. And so a lot of times when we're trying to get our house organized, we're trying to get some control in a lot of areas in which we don't have control. And so if this audience primarily has children, let me just tell you, if your kids are under the age of 5, I tell you to take a nap instead of to organize, because it's like shoveling snow in a snowstorm. It's going to be a mess anyway. Or go organize your closet. At least that will stay organized. But as your kids start to enter full age school, and as you start to get into your 40s and 50s, and you start to see that there's a glimmer at the end of the road, there's a light and it's not an oncoming train, like you might get some of your time back. And honestly, you guys, I'm 52. I'm probably going to live to be 100. Like I have half of my life still. You have so much time after you're out of active child rearing days. Stop beating yourself up. Stop trying to make everything perfect. Yeah, I just found that I was so hard on myself, and everyone I meet is so hard on themselves.
I love that what you're saying about the active parenthood. And that's, and I've talked about that with my podcast before. And if you have babies and if you have young toddlers, like just give yourself a break and like lower your expectations for what you think you have to do. And maybe even step back and be like, why do I think I need to do this?
Yes.
It's okay. Like you have to maybe talk to yourself, because if you're not conscious of it, it's to me, sometimes I can see clutter and think like I don't even have the thought. I go straight to feeling stressed. There's no like in between thought that could help me prevent that feeling that I have. And I think this is kind of a timely conversation too, because last week, and because you mentioned go clean your closet, I have a friend who's an organizer, and she came over and helped me with my closet. And I can tell you that the feeling, it's like, I can't believe I waited this long almost, because I feel so much happier when I open my closet instead of like, like it's like it feels good. And it also led to a few other things, which is funny. I had a purse. I've had this purse for 20 years. And my friend was like, you deserve to fix this zipper on your purse. It's been broken. And I got that taken care of. I had a ring that needed to be sized that I haven't worn that I want to wear. I got that taken care of. And it was all because it was this domino effect of what happened after I was able to take one thing that was like an eyesore that was upsetting me, that was making it hard for me to find what I even had, to now I'm organized in other places of my life that I didn't even think I would be that happy. Like, and every time I check something off the box, I'm like, wow, like the feeling of just relief and excitement that it gives me is funny. I'm like, this is weird that I'm this excited about it, but it really feels good. And I did not know that statistic about 1 in 2 families having to deal with something like that. And yeah, it's already hard enough being a parent, and then having an extra something that you don't know anything about. You're kind of learning how best to take care of your children and their needs and everything. That is the definition of overwhelming, I would
Yes.
think.
I think so what you identified are 2 types of work that, in addition to that we've already talked about, we've identified 4 types of work. So one of the things I try to do in my podcast and in my teaching is to reframe our household experience so we could see it differently, so that we can, I don't know, lead better in our houses, I would say. So we originally started talking about childcare. Childcare is, having a family, having children, parenting is not a job. It's a calling. It's your life's work. I mean, there's a lot of work associated with it, but it's not housework. Like parenting is its own kind of work. So childcare is its own kind of work. You also could have elder care or be caring for some other family members. So just care of others is one kind of work. A second kind of work that we haven't really touched on, but is always talked around, is just the everyday in and out housework that has to be done for the sustaining of life, which is getting food, preparing food, cleaning up food, doing laundry, cleaning your house so that it's habitable. Like, so the government doesn't come in and say, this is not habitable anymore. And that does happen. So those are just table stakes, like childcare and housework. But the 2 kinds of work that you just mentioned are actually productive work, and they actually don't have to be done over and over again. Once they're done, they can be maintained. One of those is organization, specifically personal organization. So organizing your purse, organizing your car, organizing your closet, organizing your bathroom and your bedroom, like your condo. I call kids' bedrooms, there are many apartments, and you organize your condo. Like, your condo space can get organized and needs to be maintained about 4 times a year. And then you're living in organized space about 50% of the time. Organizing your kitchen will also, for if you do it 3 times a year, like you eat different foods in the fall than you do in the winter, than you do in the summer, like just really cleaning it out, organizing it, resetting it for whatever your wellness goals are, that will really sustain you as well. But then when you mentioned the resizing of the ring, that is household management. And there are a lot of household management tasks that we don't have a really good system for. And this is what I do in the Sunday basket, where that ring would have gone in the Sunday basket and eventually it would have gotten to the jeweler. Now, it may have taken months or years, but at least you would have known that it was an actionable project that was in process. And so what I'm trying to do, what I've done in Organize 365 and what I'm trying to do with my PhD, is establish operating systems for the household like we have in work, government, school, everywhere you are. The work, whether paid or not, all has an operational system. So organizing your house is an operational system. Having a weekly planning and an activity, actionable project process, which is the Sunday basket, is an operational system. We do 3 times a year planning retreats, which are like you would do planning inside of businesses. So setting up these things that you have in every single other entity, but we don't have it inside of households, and defining the kind of work. You can hire a babysitter to watch your child. You can hire a housekeeper to come and clean your house. You can hire a professional organizer to help you organize. No one's going to do household management, though. That's your job as the CEO and the COO of your house.
Oh, I love that. I think, well, when I think of being overwhelmed, one of the things that I think of is having too many things in my head.
Yes.
And so when I open up my jewelry box and I see my ring, I make a mental note of it, and then I forget that
Yes.
until that I open my jewelry basket again. And so what your program is sounding like is that's you're taking that I'm going to store this here, which is just going to cause me more problems, more overwhelm, more stress, and I'm going to put it in a system where I can make sure I don't have to like wake up in the middle of the night and be like,
Right.
wait, what was I supposed to do? Because you have that. I'd love to hear some more examples of that, and like how it works, and like some more ways that it can help us like not feel, maybe some more tangible tips about that, because that's really part of the problem for me when I'm feeling overwhelmed, is that maybe I haven't taken all my thoughts out of my head and put them down somewhere.
100%. I've now read all of the literature there is on writing by hand, writing things down by hand. And there's not a single study that shows that writing it any other way or keeping it any other way is as effective as writing by hand. Like, writing by hand somehow encodes it deeper into your memory and allows you to move it out of your brain and come back to it when you need it and yet still remember it. So writing things down by hand are important. So I'm going to tell you about the Sunday basket, but let's take your ring as an example. You could either have taken your ring, put it in a Ziploc bag, and actually put it in the Sunday basket, or you could have just written down on a note card, fix ring, and put that in the Sunday basket. Either way, it takes that task from being hidden somewhere else or mentally in your mind to in a system where someday it's actually going to get done. We don't know when, but someday it's going to get done. Because what I would do when I went back to the jewelry box and saw that it was still not sized, instead of just saying, oh, I need to do it someday, I would add on the, and I'm such a terrible person, I can't even get my ring size. Like I would negatively talk to myself. So I created the Sunday basket 22 years ago when my kids were 6 months and 2 years old. Now, back then, we had computers, but we didn't use them a lot, and we did not have smartphones. So I literally had a stack of 14 individual pieces of 14 inches of individual pieces of paper at the end of my kitchen counter. There's adoption paperwork in there, medical paperwork, bills, like everything. And it was just unorganized. And my son didn't sleep at all. So if he would take a nap, I would start to spread out those papers, and then he'd wake up and I'd have to put them back. So one Sunday, it was 8 o'clock at night. My husband and the kids were both asleep, which was like a miracle. And I still had energy. And I was like, I am going to solve this problem because I was paying bills late because I couldn't find them, not because we didn't have the money. And I spread all these papers out on my family room floor, and it was 40 different actionable piles of things to do. Like I had to make these phone calls. I had to enter these orders. I had to file this paper. I had they were all different things I had to do. So I was a teacher, and I went and I got binder inserts, those tabbed binder inserts that are colored. And I just put each pocket had a different project. And I took all 40 of these little projects and I put them in a Longaberger basket. It's a direct sales company in Ohio that we had. So it would sit on the end of my counter. And when my son fell asleep the next day, I went and I grabbed one of those slash pockets and I made the calls or paid the bill or whatever I did. He woke up 20 minutes later and I was like, yes, this is going to work. This is going to work. It's going to take me 6 weeks to get through this backlog, but I have a system now. Like I actually got something done. I was so excited. So I did that for 15 years, started Organized 365, started doing in-home organizing. It wasn't until 2018 that I patented and started manufacturing the Sunday basket. And now the Sunday basket is a foldable box. It's designed to sit on your kitchen counter. It's open, so you could just throw stuff in there like the ring or the note. And then on Sunday, there's certain colors of these slash pockets now that we have, and everything means something, and you sort something into those projects. So that ring would have either ended up like in a household project slash pocket or a personal to-do slash pocket. And one weekend you would have gone through these slash pockets and you have been like, you know what? I have some extra time and I also need to go do this other thing in the jeweler. So I'm going to do both of these things. They're going to end up on my errand list and it's actually going to get done. And most of what we do in our households that is not laundry, dishes, or cooking cannot be done in 1 week. And everything we do is reactive to how much time we have in a day or even a week. And so this Sunday basket allows you to plan out projects for a week that will take longer than a week. So like, let's say you need to do your taxes. First, you'll collect all the information in one slash pocket, and then you'll sit down one weekend and organize it all. And then you'll give it to the CPA, and then you'll receive it back from the CPA and pay or receive the tax that are owed. And then you'll put it in a file cabinet. And you can see how that takes a minimum of 6 weeks, but it usually takes us like 4 or 5 months, right? Where do you keep all that tax information all during that time? Or I had all this information about wanting to remodel our basement, and then we did it this year. Some of those ideas I'd had for 8 years. Where do you keep those ideas? And so the ideas are kept there, the projects are kept there, receipts are kept there, bills are kept there. And then on Sunday, you process through all of that in a weekly planning time. It could take an hour and a half to 3 hours, but you're spending that time anyway. You're just spending it during the week. And then during the week, you just run your plan and you have a lot more mental bandwidth and you're able to react to the things that are coming at you this week. And if you get a request of your time through a DM or mail or a kid or whatever, if it can wait until Sunday, it must wait until Sunday, and you make all your decisions that you can on Sunday.
I love that. I think it's so true what you said about you miss something, you let a ball drop, and then you come in with the negative self-talk. I can't even do this. Like, I can't believe, like, I even did it with the purse. I'm like, I can't believe I've had this purse that means a lot to me for 20 years without a zipper.
Right.
Like, how could I have not got that fixed? But having a system is like where you can get out of that and just make yourself feel like it is so true. Like, how are we taking something like I didn't have a zipper to I'm lazy or what, whatever we want to call ourselves or be mean to ourselves. It's like just unnecessary. It adds to like the already overwhelm that we have. And then I want to hear more about the writing by hand,
Yeah.
because this makes me feel good about myself because I still have a paper planner. And sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I should switch. And I have heard like pen to paper
Yep.
is better. I'd love to hear more about the research on that, because this is something that I just like doing better, but I didn't know if it was just because I'm getting older and like I'm not as hip to the new technology.
So it's interesting. I can't quote chapter and verse or who the articles are. I mean, their names are in my head, but I'll get it wrong. Yeah, I've heard, I too like to write things down by hand. And I learned a couple of years ago that instead of making a to do list, I don't even have a to do list. I write every single thing on an individual piece of paper or an individual index card. Here's why. I buy school supplies. And somewhere along the line, the kids didn't need to have index cards on anymore, but I forgot that. And every single year I'd buy more and more and more. And I had like a whole drawer full of them at one point. And I was like, I wonder if I wrote everything on my to-do list on index cards instead, if it'd be easier to organize and easier to just get things done. So I did that for a period of time, and it was easier to organize, and I didn't have to keep rewriting things and feeling bad about not getting my to-do list done. So now I just write one thing on an index card, it goes in the Sunday basket, and then it gets done. So we did a pilot last year with a whole middle school in Indiana. We gave the teacher workbox, which is a version of the Sunday basket for teachers, to make visible the invisible work that they're doing. And I taught the whole school how to do it, and every single person got a workbox. And I taught them to write everything down by hand. I went back for the second session, and I had heard, everything's digital, everyone's digital, they all have computers, everything they do is digital. So, I didn't even know if this system would work for them or if they would embrace it. So I asked them in a poll, how many of you do everything by paper? How many of you do everything digitally? And how many of you do things in combination? 50% said they did everything on paper. 50%. I was like, what? Like 45% said they did a combination of paper and digital, and only 5% said that they did everything digital, which was, I think, 2 people. And I was blown away. So then we were doing this pilot with another school, and I said, ask your teachers. So we asked the teachers at a school in Chicago, same thing. Almost no one was 100% digital. So I think that this message needs to get out. Whether we're a digital society or not, humans are not being 100% digital. So feel better about yourself. But the research actually shows there are a couple of different studies. One study, they had you type on a typewriter, type on a computer that was not attached to the internet, or write things by hand as you were watching some videos. And then you went and did something else, and then you had to take a quiz. And the people who wrote by hand took less notes, but did better on the quiz. And then there was an interesting study. It was so fascinating how they did this one. This one was calendaring. Like you had to put random tasks that aren't even your tasks on an actual calendar. And then again, they had you do something else so you'd forget about it. And then they asked you what the dates were for those calendars. And your choice was like a digital calendar, like where you were typing things in, like an iPad where you were writing it with a stylus, or actually writing it on a physical calendar. People who wrote on a physical calendar like blew everybody else out of the water. So again, it's that, and these aren't even your own tasks. So it's not like you're trying to remember your own things. They're just random tasks you're told to put in these certain places. So that physical act of writing it down, they believe encodes that memory deeper into your working memory.
That makes sense. I mean, when I was in college to study, I just wrote.
Me too, by color.
That's what I did. And that's how I was able to pass my test. Like that was just my form of studying. So that makes sense to me. And then, also I've heard people talking about things that aren't like important to memorize, but just like journaling, for example, how the impact is greater when you're on a paper journal versus like if you're typing. I mean, I guess it doesn't, with that type of thing, it's not like you're trying to remember anything necessarily, but that actually writing something down or a goal with pen and paper is what I heard once. It was more impactful. And I was like, that's great. Like who doesn't love pen and paper? So, okay. Another question I wanted to ask you, and I saw this on your website, you were talking a little bit about women or whoever your clients are for organization having ADHD as well. And so how can that be like an extra roadblock? Because I do have friends who have ADHD, and like they've shared with me what it's like trying to stay organized with their young kids at home, and it's difficult is what I am hearing.
That's such a nice word. It's difficult.
That's what, to put it lightly.
So, yeah, my children were both diagnosed with ADHD as kids. One of them no longer has that diagnosis, but because of that, they went to a special learning disability school that was in conjunction with Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and I got to learn from the best of the best about ADHD. And I have a teaching degree, so I also, knew some as a teacher. And then I started Organize 365, and I was organizing women in Cincinnati, and 50% of them 50% of them either were diagnosed or were self-diagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, this is interesting. I'm taking all this data in, start Organize 365. I start teaching how to get organized online instead of using our in-home professional organization services. And I took what I learned about executive functions of what I knew about being a student and learning and applied it into the household setting and wrote a book called How ADHD Affects Home Organization. And then I
Mm.
met an organization that had me do some trainings that did testing that would diagnose you with ADHD. And like kind of to see if the testing worked, I did the test. But I also had an executive function coach test me on my executive function. And my hypothesis was that you can support your executive function. Your executive function in your brain is working memory, planning, organization, task switching, like all the words that I'm talking about all the time. And one of my employees had said years before, she said, "Wouldn't it be hilarious if we could get you diagnosed with ADHD and then realize that your systems are the solution?" And I was like, hilarious. So I had the executive function coach do my executive function profile, and then I went to this online program to see if I had ADHD. And the executive function coach said, "You have optimal executive function. There's no way that you have ADHD." I said, "Well, fascinating," because I was just medically diagnosed with ADHD. And they're like, "What?" So then I went to this special learning disability school because I know everybody there. And I was like, "Dr. So and so, give me a definitive answer. Am I or am I not ADHD?" And she said, "There is no way you have ADHD. Like, you're successful. You have this business. You have these employees." I said, "Are you saying you can't be successful if you're ADHD?" She goes, "No." I said, "I want to know." She goes, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Run every single test you want. I don't care how much it costs. I need to figure this out because women are getting diagnosed in their 40s and 50s and whatever." So she ran all the tests and she said, "You are not dyslexic. You are flaming ADHD." And I was like, "I am?" She said, "Yes." She goes, "I cannot believe everybody missed this." And she said, "No, definitely based on your childhood." She goes, "By the way, your mother thinks you're perfect and have done no wrong." I said, "I'm aware." She says, "So we discounted that." She said, "No, the fact that you get speeding tickets, the way you spend money, like the fact that you would have this floating C all over your grade and you couldn't get all A's and B's." She said, "These are all telltale characteristics of an ADHD student." With all that said, I don't take medication because I don't need to, because I'm self employed and I've made my own life. And almost all founders are ADHD. Like, they're almost all. And we have just created a life that works for us. So I say that because I know ADHD, it can be very debilitating. And ADHD
Mm.
is a spectrum disorder, meaning that you can have severe to mild ADHD. And it can be severe in certain situations and mild in others. And a lot of times, I think women, or it has been proven, that women get diagnosed in their 40s and 50s. In their 40s, because their kids go to school and they lose the structure of the kids being at home in the schedule, or they go off to high school or whatever and they lose that school structure. And then in their 50s, because they go through menopause. And both of these are times when I guess there's, the hormones are changing or the structure is changing. And so things that were masked before become evident. My personal thought about it is that if you need medication, take it. Like, I have no problem with medication. However, you can also change your environment. It's kind of like if you have diabetes, definitely take the insulin, but also don't eat all the candy bars, right? Like, I mean, like, you could do both things. So this is a, a neurotypical thing. I also think it's where all of the fun stuff comes from. I remember when I got diagnosed, I went to my son and I was like, "Do you think I should take the test and find out if I'm ADHD?" And he said, "Mom, you have always told me that having an ADHD brain is a superpower. And it's why I see things the way I see things. And that ADHD people are able to make connections that other people are not able to make." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right." And so then I took the test. And so I don't think that ADHD is a disability. I think it is a different way of viewing the world, and it is a less linear way of viewing the world. So all of the Organized 365 products, I was a kindergarten teacher, they're color coded. Like anybody can use the Organized 365 products. Some people can use a Franklin Covey planner, but anybody, kids, adults, ADHD, doesn't matter. You can all use the systems that I've created.
That's amazing. I've heard that statistic about a lot of
Yeah.
founders and business owners have ADHD. And I follow people who have it and are wildly successful. And yeah, they do things, they change their environment. That's so huge for anything. Like you said, it could be health, it could be anything. I love that. I think that's a good point. If somebody who said, thinks they struggle because they have ADHD and they have these tools that can help them, that anybody can do it. I'd like to speak to that, because I am the type of person who would say I am not an organized person. Like, I have never been. It doesn't come naturally to me. That's why I have had help,
Yes.
because I feel like I want to be organized. It's something that not everybody is just knows how to do. It's
Correct.
like we need a system. We need to be taught how to do it, especially if it doesn't just naturally make sense for us. I have a friend who, if you walk into her house, you're like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
It is perfect. Down to, and I told her one time, I was like, hey, like, how, I'm so jealous. Like, and she's like, it's a disorder. She's like, trust me, I'm not doing this because I want to. It has to be like this for me to feel comfortable. When I first started my wellness journey, I had already been in the skincare industry for years, working on client skin and as an educator for multiple skincare brands. When I learned about how the toxins in our personal care and beauty products could have a negative impact on our health, I knew I needed to make a change. I was used to the result-driven products that I was working with, and I was not happy with the natural products on the market at that time. Although they were safer and cleaner, they did not meet my expectations for results. I created Simply Just Skincare to deliver the results my clients demanded from their products while using natural, toxin-free ingredients. You can check out my clients' results and reviews on my website, simplyjustskincare.com. In 30 days, my clients have reported more hydrated skin, less appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, and more of an overall glow. Our top sellers include our Repair Toner, our Hydrating Undo Serum with hyaluronic acid, and more. I am offering my listeners 20% off their first order with code PODCAST. Check it out in the link in my show notes to get glowing today. But also, I know people who are just naturally, they've just been like that. They've been organized. They're maybe, I think, maybe more minimalistic too. That can kind of help with certain things as far as clutter goes. But what would you say for people who are like, I'm just not organized. I can't get organized. I've never been organized. I don't think this is for me.
I love that you said you hired help. And I think that if you look at any successful entrepreneur that has a company bigger than themselves, they hire people. First person I hired was an administrative assistant. Second person was somebody to clean my house. And the third one was a bookkeeper. These are all things I'm not good at. Now, I used to clean people's houses for a living. Like, I made money to send my kids to private school by cleaning people's houses. But I knew that if I had somebody else cleaning my house, I would have more time to work on the business. And that was something only I could do. And I really come back to the household, all the hats you're wearing. If you have children, you are parenting, you're doing housework, you're doing household management, and personal organization. That's 4 jobs right there. The number one thing, if you can afford to hire it out even once a month, cleaning your house will save you a dozen hours in 1 month, just because it holds you accountable to keeping your house a little bit more clean. It gets the house cleaner than you would because you don't want to do those tasks. It allows you to use your time differently for, like, it's just hiring people. I said to my chair when we were talking about the dissertation that I'm getting ready to start, and I said, you know what? The American house is the largest small business in the world. Like, the US household economy is 68% of the US GDP, gross domestic product, meaning that you at home, going to the grocery store, shopping on Amazon, taking your kids to camp, taking your kids to Disney World, you are 68% of the revenue of the United States, and the United States is the biggest country in the world. So our households
Wow.
are all small businesses. They're all small businesses. We have supply chain, we have operations, we have strategy, but we're not doing strategy. We're not doing supply chain. We're just like, well, we're at home, so let's just get the homework done. Let's get the meals done, and let's see if we can have some time to relax. Let's see if we can have some time to relax. And what I would say is, forget the relaxing. Take 18 months and treat this as a job. You are the CEO, you are the COO. Get your organization set, get your personal household management set. Forget the kids for like 18 months. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be a mess 18 months from now. Don't even worry about it. Just keep them alive and keep the housework running until you can get those organizational systems in place, and then tackle the housework and then tackle the kids. It'll go quicker, and then you'll have an exponential amount of time. If you start by cleaning the kids' rooms and getting the groceries and the laundry done, you're exhausted by the end. You don't even get to your closet. But if you start with your closet and the storage room and the paper and the binders and the household management, all the things nobody sees, but everybody needs when you have a car accident, or you need to renew your license, or you need these papers. If you can get all of that organized, once it's organized, you almost never have to reorganize it ever again. But we don't ever take that time because we're so busy in the day to day. And a proper CEO or business owner or an entrepreneur knows that if you don't take time out and strategize and plan and do the things that nobody is seeing, the business will never be profitable. And our households are not profitable. We don't have any free time and we don't have enough money. And it's because we're trying to do the actionables as an employee inside of the company without anybody leading. Who's leading? Who's running the ship? We don't know. We think somebody out there is telling us what to do. Or if we just get all of these things done, if we get our to-do list done like we're a kid, we'll be able to go out and play on Saturday. No, you're now the business owner. Like, this is the largest small business in the world that you're in charge of. And so entrepreneurs are a little nuts. And they have to create all of their own systems, and they have to hire all their own people. And every single person in every single household is starting from scratch. No one has the organizational skills they need. And so that's the last point I wanted to make to what you said, is that organization does not come naturally to everyone, but it is a skill that everyone can learn. And in the surveys that we have done, we've asked this question over and over and over to the American population, and 87% every single time say, yes, organization is a learnable skill. So then my question to you is, who's teaching it? Like, we're selling the containers, we're doing the decluttering challenges, but who's actually teaching how to organize, your storage room? So the way I organize a storage room is it's a prepaid store. It has shelves, it has bins. You'll never need to reorganize it again after you organize it that way. Like, that is learning how to organize a system.
Yeah. And what you said too about, like, you're never going to get to that place of relaxation, or like you're saying, like, take care of this so that you can then go relax. Because if it's an underlying feeling of, I am not organized, or when is this due, or when is that due, that just, I feel like that is a feeling that you can't fully relax from once it's like all these things are up in the air. When you start filing them away and like organizing them, that's when you get that relief. Like, that's why I feel on cloud nine since doing my closet, because yes. I mean, I had clothes in there I didn't know I had. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just got a new wardrobe because I couldn't even see it. Like, it was bad. I did need professional help for that one for sure. So if you're starting on this journey and you're like, okay, I get it, I need to make some changes in my family organization and just implement some of these systems, where would you recommend people start?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because I mean, like I just said, you're basically the biggest small business in the world. And you're like, great, I didn't even want to be a business owner. Where do I start? And so I have never sugarcoated it. It takes like 18 months to 3 years to truly feel like you're on top of things. And I was a Montessori teacher. I think it's because there's this 3-year cycle of learning that goes on. I mean, you get immediate relief. Like, the Sunday basket will give you relief within 6 weeks. Getting through your personal organization, you can get through that in a couple more months. Like, you start to get more and more organized. But to truly feel like there's no organization left to do, that's usually around 3 years. And I think the way that you get started is just becoming aware that there is non-Pinterest perfect functional organizing that will literally free up time for the rest of your life. Yeah, okay, 18 months to 3 years to get organized, but then you have the rest of your life living as an organized person because now you've learned this skill. And I have no problem with hiring professional organizers, but when the closet gets disorganized again, can you do it without the professional organizer the next time? Like, learning the skill of what does an organized closet look like? How do I maintain this? How do I make sure that the things in my closet are what I need and want? And my only rule is that if I go in your closet and I pull out clothes, you'll put them on and walk out the house with me. That's it. Like, you can have as many or as few as you want, as long as they all fit. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not going to, well, I'll admit it. I did have clothes in my closet that were from like before my husband and I even met, and we've been married for 15 years. So
that's normal.
It was
so normal.
It's normal, but I'm like, why do I have this? And not to mention, it's not in style anymore. I can guarantee you it's tight. And, it's just one of those things where there's organization, but then there's like decluttering. And I feel like there is an emotional, psychological aspect to that of letting go. And I don't know if you deal with this with your clients, but having a dress in my hand that I literally wore to my 10-year high school reunion. Um, and I was like, oh, I remember buying this. And I remember it was very expensive. And I remember
Yes.
like it was so beautiful. But then if I was going to an event now, I wouldn't be able to wear that dress. So why do I have it? And I think it was kind of like I had with my friend here, I was going through emotions. Emotions were coming up
Yes.
of like, can I let this go? Why do I need it? Like going back and forth in my mind. And then she was very sweet and proud of me for, look at you. Like you were able to let all this go. So, but is that so common that people
Yes.
have like as far as letting things go like that?
Yes, I don't really talk about it as much about the emotions, and that's definitely something that an in-person professional organizer helps you with a lot, is just keeping you going, keeping the momentum. You organize longer, you organize faster, you organize better. But I love how you made the distinction between decluttering and organizing. So, quite a few
Mm,
years ago, I realized that there's a three-part process. It's decluttering, organizing, and increasing productivity. And a lot of us want to just declutter, like maybe get to a minimalist lifestyle and then increase our productivity and skip right over the whole organizing thing. And very few people talk about organizing at all. And so when you declutter, emotions are not of getting rid of things. Like let's say you kept that dress for a few more years. I usually err on having people keep things versus
mm-hmm.
decluttering, because if you over declutter, then you have resentment and then you won't keep decluttering. And what I found to be true was, because so many of the online challenges are how to declutter or how to have less or live with less, people will go through their house the first time and they get rid of things and they feel great. And then it's like 6 weeks, 2 or 3 months later, and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so overwhelmed again. And they go through and they declutter again. And this time they feel okay about it. Now there's 6 weeks to 3 months goes by, they're feeling overwhelmed again. They go to declutter, and there's really nothing to declutter, but that's the only thing they know to do. So then they just start getting rid of things that they kind of still want because they never got to organizing. So, yes, you definitely have
Mm.
to get rid of some of the extra that's in your closet. But once you get rid of the extra that's in your closet, like you mentioned, that it's no longer fashionable and not something you would wear. Not a problem I have, because I'm not very fashionable. I just like it if it feels well and it's warm. But if you're a fashionable person, then yeah, you're going to organize your closet based on the last couple of years of seasons. And you're going to realize that, okay, for my aesthetic, I like to be within 5 years of fashion. So even if it's classic, if that's not really my style anymore, I'm going to go ahead and let that go because it doesn't fit my aesthetic. For me, it just has to fit my body. As long as it fits my body, I'm happy. So I've got this whole line of dresses that I'm about to get rid of that I wore on my book tour. And I don't want to get rid of them because I love them. It's so fun. And they weren't even expensive. They were like $35 a piece. And I had it like in every color. But it reminded me of that book tour that I put on for myself and I sent myself on, and that memory. But I am ready to get rid of it. And sometimes they'll stay in your closet for a while or stay in your memories for a while, because that memory isn't truly, like, I guess, all the way inside. And it's still, the item is still bringing you that memory. The time that I realized that this was true was when I was doing a lot of in-home organizing for widows or people who had lost their parents. And I found that around the 5 year mark was when they were ready to let go of all of the stuff. Like it was just like a switch flipped, and they were like, okay, it can all go now. And so I think sometimes that like 5 year mark is where people are ready to get rid of those things. But the organizing, taking ownership of your closet, now that you have a little bit more space in there, and be like, okay, these are spring, these are summer. Like I separate everything navy from black so that I don't have to try to see if it's navy or black in my closet. Like navy's on one side, black is on the other. Getting the nice flocked hangers so everything's actually hung on hangers that you like. That kind of stuff is organizing. And organizing sometimes means adding. So in my case, when I first did my closet, I was the most overweight I'd ever been. We had no money. I was down to like 3 outfits that even fit. So I couldn't declutter because there wasn't enough there. And I actually needed to replenish my wardrobe, which I ended up doing over the course of a year using a resale shop.
That's a good point, because nobody ever talks about that in the organizing world. They never talk about adding
Right.
anything. It's always take away, take away, take away. or you might need some really cool like bins or,
Right.
something to make it really look lovely and match. And again, just because it makes you feel good and it's like, it adds to how to keep it in a place that makes sense and all that. But I think this is I think it's so fascinating. And I feel like I have learned a lot. And there's obviously a need, and people are so interested in this. Like, look at the shows like Home
Mm-hmm.
Edit and all of the things that we have on Netflix now. People are like, I need this in my life. So tell everybody where they can find more about what you offer. Tell us more about what you offer, first of all, and then where we can find you. And I also know you have a podcast I cannot wait to listen to. So share with us where everyone can find you.
Takes a while to get through the podcast. If you start at the beginning, we'll be 10 years old in September, but it's called Organize
Wow,
365.
congratulations.
Thank you. It's called Organize 365. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram, Organize 365 on Instagram, Lisa Woodruff on LinkedIn. And
Okay.
we have a whole bunch of courses. Basically, I've built a whole school to teach you how to get organized. The best way to get started is with one of our free challenges. So if you're listening to this in the summer, we have our back to school blitz through August 22nd. And that's where we help you get organized for the kids going back to school, but also for you. Because when was the last time you got new bras and underwear or shoes? Like maybe we could put ourselves on the to-do list and definitely get better scissors. Get good scissors. Like that's always my thing, like get good scissors. And then if you missed that one and you're hearing this one a little bit later, in the fall, we'll have the holiday blitz. And the holiday blitz is where in the end of October and beginning of November, we think about the last 6 weeks of the year, the holidays that your family celebrates. And before you pull everything out of the storage room and go to the grocery store, we think about what do you remember from last year, what worked, what didn't work, what does your family even remember, because most of it they don't, and stop adding things to your to-do list because they don't even realize you're doing them, because I want you to enjoy the holidays. So those are our 2 free blitzes we have here at the end of the year. And then if you're ready to purchase something, always get started with the Sunday basket. You can get a free Sunday basket if you get the complete home solution.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I will make sure to link all of this in the show notes. And I love the back to school challenge. I love the holiday challenge. That's really great. It's so funny to think about that being organized and like what worked last year, what didn't work. 2 years ago, I got food poisoning I got the flu on Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving night, I was sick all night. And the next year, last year, I made Thanksgiving dinner and I could barely look at the food. I couldn't eat dinner, anything. And I told my husband, I'm like, this Thanksgiving, like things are going to be different. Like I want to do something non-traditional. That did not work for me because I never want turkey dinner again. And I'm like, maybe we could like do something non-traditional, like go out to dinner, or like maybe we just take a new spin on it. And also it's funny to see how many times I've hosted, because I host quite a bit, and I end up going out and buying things or platters or whatever it might be. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this already because I hadn't put it back in the right place or whatever. So that is also so annoying when you do that kind of a thing. So I will definitely be doing that challenge with you. But thank you so much, Lisa. This was so fun. And I love your expertise. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.